Welcome back, Comic Watchers, to a very special and unique episode of Comic Watchers. Comic Watchers is brought to you by Comic Watch. Comic Watch is your source for all your comics and media news and reviews written by fans for fans. Don't forget to follow us on Facebook and Twitter and spread the word that we're coming for the clickbait sites. It's our time now. I'm your host, Cody. I have left my tropical paradise of Hawaii for a brief period of time, and now I'm deep in the heart of Texas. Oh, just a couple hours away from our boy Nick, a couple hours away from our boy Matt. We have a really exciting show for you guys today. We're going to be talking about Murder Falcon, Flash, Year One, and the plethora or possibly cacophony of War of the Realms tie-ins. So for now,
I like to refer to them as a murder, like crows. A murder of War of the Realms tie.
Of War of the Realms. So here's the rest of our regular crew.
Hey, this is Matt coming to you from a soggy and waterlogged and otherwise flooded Oklahoma.
Hey everyone, I'm Nicholas Osborne coming from all the way out in Carthage, Texas. Look for me on Instagram and Twitter at OscorpNicholas.
Awesome. So we didn't actually talk about this beforehand. Maybe we should have. Matt, do you have any news for us today?
Well, we were supposed to have news? No. Right off the top of my head, I didn't have anything prepped. So, unfortunately, I do have to report the sad news that colorist Justin Ponzer passed away of cancer at age 42. He was extremely talented. He colored Ultimate Fallout. You guys pitch in without. He colored just about everything in the last 15 years. It seems he was incredibly.
There wasn't a major project in the last 10 years that he wasn't involved with.
Yeah.
Most notably, he was the original colorist for Miles Morales. Especially with as big as Into the Spider-Verse has become, and what a household name Miles Morales has become. Like, he was a big part of that.
Yeah.
But
I want to say he was on the Avengers for a while.
Yeah, he was on Aaron's Avengers.
He helped with Civil War 2 as well, I believe.
Yeah, just an outstanding talent. Everybody loved him from everything I've read. Bendis and Aaron and just everybody reaching out right now saying, just a great guy he was. And it shows. Like, he passed in his home surrounded by friends and family. I mean, that's
the way to do it.
You can ask for.
So, let's see. The first trailer for the CW's new Batwoman show premiered. I wasn't personally all that taken with it, and I tend to like those shows. So I hope it gets a little bit better. God, guys, it seems like there's nothing and everything happening, and of course that's what happens when you're not prepared. Cody, did you have anything of note?
Well, today we saw the new Terminator trailer released. That'll be a pretty big deal in nerddom. It's been a while since we've had a Terminator film. This one looks, at least aesthetically, it looks pretty solid. They're off to a good start here.
It's been 27 years since we had a good Terminator film.
Ouch.
I'm genuinely shocked none of you have mentioned this week's gigantic news. Tom King is leaving Batman at issue 85, as confirmed.
That was the big news.
No mention has been made of who will replace him, and I have heard talk, but nothing official of him possibly getting a Bat and Cat mini series to wrap up their. This was a pretty surprising constantly for 2 years, but as somebody was quick to point out, the sales have been slowly lowering, and last issue sold approximately the same as when Gordon was Batman with a robot Batman with bat ears. So,
I really like that story. Shut up.
He responded on Twitter so far. He's only said thank you for the kind words. And that's kind of been his only remark on it so far. So all we really know is that there are multiple projects in the works for him, and he's done with Batman, apparently.
I think he's not done with Batman, but he's done with the regular Batman title.
Yeah,
I don't
Probably
buy
a
it.
better way to put
Buy it
that.
for a
But
minute.
yeah, it is shocking because for the last like 2 years he's been saying nonstop his last issue will be number 104 or whatever number it is, and so this did,
107.
something like that. It when it got extended for some reason, but very surprising news.
It got extended
Look, you
because
guys.
other people wrote Batman issues, and
Yeah.
so because he was going to issue 107 because Joshua Williamson wrote a couple, Tom Taylor wrote an annual, this and that.
I think
This is news. This is news regarding a man who possibly pulled off the greatest and most horrific publicity stunt in the history of comics. Like, I don't buy any of this for a moment. I think that there is a distinct chance that he will continue on with the numbering, that this will be a rebranded comic, that for a little while we're going to have Damian Wayne Batman. It's not going to be Batman. It's going to be something Batman. Shadow of Bat. Something.
So along the lines of Red Hood Outlaw or something like that.
Exactly.
That's what I was thinking as well.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's a trick. It's a big, dirty, rotten trick.
It's a big, dirty, rotten trick. Fooled me once, right?
Yeah.
But, well, I mean, we'll see. There's no official word yet. That should be coming, I'm sure, very soon.
yeah.
Is that it for news?
I think that's about it for news. That's good.
Did
I mean,
see on Twitter something exciting that Michael Moretti, who writes Wasted Space, and Joshua Hickson, who drew Shanghai Red, have a horror comic they're collaborating on starting in September. I believe that will be the first non-Wasted Space thing that spins out of last week. I know so far what they've confirmed has been that we're getting the first 2 arcs, I believe, of Wasted Space as some kind of audio format, like a teleplay or something, like a scripted podcast, like Wolverine and the Long Night, which will be a blast because that series is hilarious, and so that'll be a good time. Obviously, Wasted Space is for Vault Comics. It's Vault Comics' first ongoing series. As of now, plotted out to 25 issues, which is by far the longest Vault has ever run a series for. Usually they're in for like 4 to 6 issue minis, so it's a huge deal. The first 6 issues all sold out and went to multiple printings. It was just a fantastically received comic. So it's exciting news, and Moretti is, I consider him a rising star in indie comics. He wrote which you guys might have read. He wrote the Green Arrow story in the Halloween anthology, DC's Halloween anthology last fall, and he has also teased that he has something coming up for DC soon. I'm not sure what it is. He said all he's specified so far is it's a character that's really hard to write for. So it could be anybody. It could be Bizarro. Who knows? All I'm saying is he said it was a character that's hard to write for. And I imagine Bizarro is difficult to write for with all the backwards speaking. It's definitely hard to read. But so that's exciting news from Moretti, and he did not confirm that it was going to be a Vault Comics project, but it's probably going to be a Vault Comics project. Congratulations to both of them. I'm a big fan of both of them. As for Joshua Hickson, if you didn't read Shanghai Red last summer through fall, you should go read Shanghai Red. It is a fantastic series written by Christopher.
Bing, bing. So JJ's on a ferry. The ferry's Wi-Fi is not great.
From Image Comics. I'm not on Wi-Fi.
Yeah, he's on a boat, and
He's on a boat. So
there should be a song about that.
I'm on a boat.
Ah.
Womp womp.
I'm on a boat.
Yeah, I mean there was a ton of news this week, a lot of previews, a lot of really great stuff. Head on over to www.comic-watch.com And you can check out all of our great preview pages and everything else that our press corps has been grinding and toiling away at all week that we obviously did not review before we started the show. Sorry, press corps. Screw you, Ross. On that note,
this new Skype is kicking all our asses.
it is. We are experiencing all kinds of technical difficulties. We've got people scattered to the winds. We're doing the best we can to bring you all the most relevant shit that you could possibly want.
I've been churning out so many War of the Realms reviews, I don't even know what day it is.
On that note, it's been a couple of weeks that we've been trying to execute this, and now we're finally going to do it, and I apologize beforehand, but we are going to do an arc review on Murder Falcon from Image Comics. This was written and drawn by Daniel Warren Johnson. I don't think we're going to dwell here very long. I hope we don't dwell here super long. Nick, as far as I understand, Nick and I hated it. JJ and Matt loved it.
It was lettered by Russ. It was also lettered by Daniel Warren Johnson and colored with additional lettering by Russ Wooton.
Very nice.
I wrote one review 3 months ago, and for some reason I remember that.
Brilliant. So, Murder Falcon is in the similar vein to Metal Shark Bro, which you might have seen us cover the last show. Yeah, we came back and we were like, you know what, not enough metal. Let's do some more metal. This is the story of a washed-up musician who discovers a magical avatar of a murder falcon and uses the power of metal to channel through that avatar and stop monsters. And in the process, he's got to get the band back together, and they've got to find all these epic, fantastical instruments to reenact other avatars in order to fight, what's his name? Chaos, Magnum
Chaos.
Magnum Chaos, the big bad, who, I mean, he's never really explained like what his actual end goal is other than destruction and metal.
Definitely profit.
It's chaos on a magnum opus level. Come on.
So, one of you assholes that enjoyed this, talk about
that's bad.
JJ, take it away.
All right. So, Murder Falcon is a series, as we said, by Daniel Warren Johnson from Image Comics. If you attempt to take this series like seriously, or expect, if you want to say the word narrative like 5 or 6 times, you're not gonna like it. But if you're a big fan of shit like a giant tree fighting a giant crab, it's an amazing comic. I don't care. There's a.
So JJ's stopping and sputtering, I think, perfectly captures what I thought of the story.
Good time. I do distinctly. What?
Your audio keeps cutting out and just missing just giant chunks of whatever it is you're trying to say, and I think that's perfect for this book, because that's what the book does.
It tries so hard to be something, and it just, I don't know, it tries to combine too many different things, and it
nails that ability to be something. It's a book about a giant bird with metal wings and machine guns fighting giant.
By the end of it, it's absolutely wanting you to take it seriously with that twist. And
yeah, I actually liked the twist though, because initially it was they kind of led you. I remember I read it monthly as it came out, and initially it leads you to think that he split up with the band and stuff because someone got sick, and they never tell you who. And after a while, it's portrayed that it might be, his significant other, who he then split with, which would make him an awful, awful person. And then a few issues from the end, it's revealed that, holy shit, it's him. He's got the goddamn cancer. And he split off, he cut ties from everyone because he was sick. Like, I understand. If I was dying, I'd leave most people. I'm kidding. I'd tell you, at least. But, you know, then the demon comes and the giant trees and plants in people's foreheads. Reasons. And it's a really fun book. It's a lot of fun. Just don't ever say the word narrative. What did you think of it? Someone else?
I mean,
Okay, I'll go.
I'll take.
Oh,
okay,
no, Nick, go
Matt.
ahead. You had more of a counterpoint opinion than I did.
I don't know. We talked about Metal Shark Bro last week or the last show, and I went back and read it, and this one wasn't that different. It was, it's a fun comic, and it's kind of got that heavy metal magazine inspiration, but like the end of it is supposed to make it better than Metal Shark Bro and want you to take it serious and deal with topics that are relevant. It just wasn't doing it for me. Maybe it would have been better as a 4-issue miniseries where it just wasn't so much, because it kind of dragged on for me. But by the end of it, I kind of thought, this is for anyone who had played guitar as a preteen and just kind of looked back on that. It turns out I wasn't that far off, but it was a little bit more serious from the ending twist. Daniel Warren Johnson, who wrote Murder Falcon and Extremity, he has a note that said, I've been playing guitar since I was 11 years old. It's a part of me, and whenever I felt a storm coming, I would play my guitar for hours and hours. I was going through a storm when I was drawing Extremity. There was a lot of pain and many long nights. It made me want to give up, to stop trying. It was hard to be brave, to hold my head up and still enjoy what life had to offer. And I didn't read that the first view. I read the entire arc and then went back and saw that. And I kind of think it framed everything well, but it just still, I understand it and I respect it and I get what it's trying to do. It wasn't something that I would continue reading if it turned into an ongoing, it just didn't do it for me. Matt, go ahead.
No, that's fair enough. I come at it from a pretty different perspective because metal was just all there through my formative years. I love heavy metal. So to read something that is clearly a love letter to the style that I can actually take seriously for its own craft, unlike Murder Shark Bro or whatever, which was so bad I can't even remember its name properly, apparently. I really appreciate it. And yeah, it starts off as just a big, dumb kaiju comic with giant crabs and, a giant falcon with muscles and a fucking red headband. Like he's Stallone up in here. And then it does the twist. And I don't want to get too deep with metaphor and narrative or everything, but the whole thing winds up being an exercise in finding strength through pain, or finding your strength through pain in dark times, and I really appreciated that. I thought it was very, very moving. I couldn't put it down. Honestly, I read the whole thing in less than 2 hours and just loved every page of it, even when it did feel kind of dragged out there in the middle, which I'll grant you it did. It was just so much fun.
I will say I appreciated one. Quest was kind of revealed, that they kind of banged it all out in like 2 issues. Like all the, it started out where I want to say it was the drummer first or the bass player. No, it was the bass player first. The bass player was their own issue, and then the next like 3 band members were another issue. It wasn't like, because I was ready. I was like, oh, it's gonna be like 6 issues of random fetch quest shit, and they didn't do that, which I thought was decent in their favor. I gotta drive now, so give me.
We do not condone podcasting and driving, but some of us do.
Yes, we do.
But all the little touches, like having Ronnie James Dio at the end, or the statue of Lemmy, or the argument in the record store between the guys talking about that shitty Metallica album, Saint Anger, was just perfect. I've had that discussion and that argument, and it, I probably am
Kurt
reading
Hammett
a little
was
bit too much.
Kurt Hammett was forbidden from playing guitar solos on that album. It's the worst album.
Oh, it's awful, and that's a whole nother conversation. Like, I can't even listen to it. I can't even listen to it. But and I'm probably reading a little bit too much into it because of my own love of the style and history and nostalgia, et cetera, et cetera. But damn it, I liked this comic quite a bit. Cody, over to you.
Yeah, so I mean, I get the arguments for it, right? Like, it's a goofy, zany, offbeat story about the power of metal and its transformative nature, blah 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 blah. But then you go from the giant monsters and no story to this deep narrative about, yeah, I did it. Yeah, that's right, drink. This deep narrative about cancer and overcoming adversity. Like, be what you're going to be. Either be a deep metaphor or be a 13-year-old fanboy metal wet dream. When it tries to do both, it fails at both. In my reading, like, I felt like it fell flat in both categories. I can't believe I'm going to say this. I'm going to say it anyway for the record. I enjoyed Metal Shark Bro better because Metal Shark Bro knew what the fuck it was. Metal Shark Bro said, we don't care. We are going to make the most outlandish thing and you're going to enjoy it. And this one's like, we're going to make this most outlandish thing, but also it's deep and heartfelt. Like, it just doesn't work for me. Like, in no universe was this ever going to work for me. And I think JJ, he knew that going into the recommendation too, to his credit. Like, he's got a pretty decent beat on what I'm looking for in a story and, in the composition of it and in the pacing of it. And I mean, I'm a critic. I'm going to be critical. Like, I can't help myself. I can't just shut that part of my brain down and say, nah, it's cool. I'm just going to read this for fun.
Yeah, I did. I definitely did legit say, we should read this, but Cody, you're going to hate it.
Yeah, he legit said that, and it was legit true. Like, bachelor's and a master's in literary analysis. I'm not like, I've lost the ability to just read for fun. Like it is no longer in my vocabulary. Read for fun. So I mean, if it was, then maybe I could have enjoyed this better, but I just couldn't. I hated every minute of it. I was resentful. I also read it in a couple of hours in a binge read. And it was the most hateful binge read I've had since, God, like the last Faulkner novel I read.
Ultimatum.
They make it apparent that they're doing something that they want you to take serious pretty early on, but it's not overbearing. And you kind of keep waiting for that, and they spend issue after issue being a fun, zany comic. And then by the time the twist happens, they don't give that enough time to be what it was. And they clash, and it just doesn't succeed at either, like Cody said.
Well, here's the thing. I think it actually works. This is my opinion, of course. I think it works as a bait and switch. You think you're just getting this light, frothy, silly story. And this is, if I can make a comparison, this is something that Buffy was always really good at doing, was setting you up to kind of think you're doing a fun, lighthearted episode and then upending everything, and suddenly the stakes are huge. And that was something I felt like was much stronger and better done than any metaphor or anything that could be tied to it. So to me, I love stuff like that. And so for me, in a storytelling sense, that's why it worked, or one of many reasons, rather.
Yeah, and I mean, I can totally see that, and I do want to say, Daniel Warren Johnson, like, I'm not trying to bash your life's work. With the indie books, there's a halfway decent chance that they will see this, and I mean, do what you're gonna do. Tell the story that you want to tell. Like, I have a lot of respect for that. I was not the target audience in this case, like, not by a long shot, and that's fine, and that's totally fine. Like what you're gonna like, hate what you're gonna hate.
As much as the story was, give or take, the art was really great. I mean, there were a lot of great panels that were just awesome to look at. I mean, credit to them, you know.
Totally. So, Cody, let me leave you with this rhetorical question before we move on to the next book. If it had been about punk or some other form of music that you have a nostalgic attachment to, if nothing else, from your formative years, do you feel like it would have worked better for you?
I think it would have absolutely worked worse. I am exceptionally critical of anything that gets into, any kind of Spirit of 76 or any of the kind of stuff.
I was about to say the same. Like, it's funny because I love metal music, but I also have a huge punk background, and almost anything that is referential to punk music, I hate. Because it's almost always... And just, like, punk, like, my wife tried to get me to watch SLC Punk 2, and oh my god, I walked out.
I've started SLC Punk 2 a number of times. I haven't made it through. I did enjoy SLC Punk, the first one.
Yeah, so did I, but at the same time, it wasn't quite on the level of something like, say, Suburbia, or, where,
sure.
Like, actual punk rockers. It was actors playing punk, punk
right.
people. And right. I'd say SLC Punk took that to a much worse level. So just, I totally agree with you on that front, Cody, is if it was about punk, I would have hated it. Like, there is actually a punk kind of comic right now. What is it?
IDW is on their Black Crown label, has
Punk's Not Dead?
Punk's Not Dead, London, I think is the subtitle on that one.
Like, how sick am I of hearing that statement at this point?
Right.
Punk's not dead. Punk's dead. Oh my god, like... They've been saying that ad nauseum since I was getting into punk music,
Saying that in, like, 1980.
Yeah.
Maybe before. Yeah. Anyway, it's a great question. I would like to maybe stick my nose into that IDW book and see what it's all about, but, I mean, I'm not optimistic. I'm certain there's a character named Sid in it. For those who don't know, I can't fucking stand the Sex Pistols. Just the Backstreet Boys of 76, like, whatever.
Right.
All
right, I am in the McDonald's parking lot. I am no longer driving and podcasting.
Our next book this week, before we head on to our roundtable on War of the Realms, is Flash 70 and 71, really. I mean, we're talking about Flash Year 1. This is coming from Josh Williamson, still writing Flash. Like, this is a nice, good check-in on, where things stand in the Flash universe. We've got Porter's back on art. So, I mean, that's always a plus for any book, like any Capes book anyway. Steve Wands is still doing the letters, but he's not getting credit for it. That's 2 issues in a row that they've left him off the credits page. That's a bummer, but I think it kind of points to a larger systemic problem with Flash right now in that editorial is checked the fuck out. They're not interested. We don't care. There is a Flash book on the stands twice a month, and we're happy with that. So, of course, this is Year 1. Barry was dead when the Year 1 revolution happened. When, everybody kind of looked back nostalgically at Frank Miller's work on Batman Year 1. And it was, the 96 annuals, 97 annuals, when they gave everybody the own Year 1?
95 annuals. 96 was Elseworlds, and 97 was Zero Hour?
No, 0 Hour was in 94.
Yeah.
Right.
It might have been 1 million. It might have been A to Z.
1 million was
JL8.
Yeah.
AJ's favorite.
Yes. So,
how can I forget that?
So post
number
crisis,
1 on my desk.
We're gonna get through this. Post-Crisis on Infinite Earths, Barry is dead. We've got Wally West running around as Flash for the next 20-some-odd years. And Barry never gets that Year 1 moment. So, I mean, obviously this is the time. obviously Barry needs his year one moment. And how do we move into the year one moment? By showing a young Barry Allen fresh off the lightning juice and flashing to the future and running into himself and finding out that there is a giant future conspiracy involving the turtle. Come on. Come on.
Did he steal those boots? I just want.
You can't let off the Force Quest garbage for one 6-issue arc. You've got to pull it all back to the Still Force, Joshua Williamson. I'm talking directly to you. I know you're not doing anything else. You're bored. Come on, man. Come on. Give us a fucking break here. I have been a diehard Flash fan as long as I've been able to read. And I have never felt so insulted by a run as I have since Flash War ended. So that's where I stand with this book. I got so sick of it, I couldn't review it anymore. I passed it over to Matt, traded him Justice League Odyssey, and I still feel like I won that trade.
I think the official wording is foisted. Foisted it on Matt.
Look, the art is gorgeous. The writing isn't terrible. The story is not timely and overly relevant, if that makes any sense. Like, I just don't care anymore. I just don't care about the Still Force anymore. That's every single arc finds a way. The friggin' Trickster arc found a way to force the Sage Force in there. Of course it did, because why wouldn't it? Because that's all he's got.
It was Josh Williamson's pet idea that only he cares about.
Yeah, and yeah, exactly. Like, Snyder every once in a while sends a nod. It's like, hey, I see you over there. I hear you. I can.
Brad's got that baby. Brad's got that turtle baby. Wait a minute. Yeah, okay. Never mind. Brad's got the turtle baby.
Oh, yeah, don't overthink it.
I know, right? I was like, wait. Nah, it kind of works.
A Barry Allen year one story should write itself. And this is overwritten and wholly unpleasant for me thus far. I know JJ, I think, agrees with me here. I think Matt is pretty much on board. But I think Nick, actually, having not been forced to read all of the Williamson run, is coming at this with a fresh pair of eyes. Like, you haven't had to deal with the previous 70 issues of this.
No, I haven't read a lot of Flash since really Rebirth even. I just, I come in here and there and touch in on a few issues, but it's an origin story. I don't know how many of those of the Flash we've seen. Apparently, by Cody's rather crass remarks, we've seen quite a few. And this is, I don't know, when I approach a story like this, it can go either one of two ways. I'm excited for it, it's got potential, and it can deliver on it, or it's just kind of a bad idea. I'm not that interested, but I like to be hopeful, and maybe it'll be worthwhile and surprise me. And I wasn't that excited about going into a Flash origin story, because I kind of assumed what was going to happen. But I thought it was kind of cool that as soon as he figured out what was going on, he time traveled, and one of the worst possible things happened, and you kind of go into that. It was not unlike what Umbrella Academy did, wildly popular on Netflix. Number 5, as soon as he gets away, he steps outside and time travels into a post-apocalyptic future, and that sets off the story. So I thought the turtle was just kind of a plot device to kind of move things along, and it's a Cape comic. I get it. I understand it. And at this point, I can see that's fun enough. I'll play along. But I know a lot of people have an issue with time traveling, and it creates versions of the characters and also the rules and complications that come along with it that people can immediately start poking plot holes at it and everything. I'm not for that. I can suspend belief long enough to go along with that. But
don't get me wrong. I have no problem with his origin story involving time travel. I have no problem with that at all. Like, that could have been really cool. It's that it's the turtle as this, avatar of the Still Force, and we're forcing this retcon all the way back to the beginning, and I'm
just glad it wasn't the Reverse Flash. I mean, at least it's something different than another speedster. And
Well, it's
I
not
don't know.
a
I
non-speedster.
thought I thought 70 and 71 played to the strengths of Flash by, he realizes his scientific roots of his powers and what that can mean and what the potentials of that are. And I like the time they spent on that, so that was fun. But it does it without becoming overly long. We're only 2 issues in now, and he's kind of already stepped up to become the Flash. I don't know where the T-shirt came from at the end. I'll have to go back through that, but he just appeared as the Flash, and that's the hero that we've all kind of trying to see and who we all come to love and everything. But apparently Cody has quite seen enough of, and I enjoyed it. I thought it was fun. I don't know, and while I don't know if this arc is going to offer anything substantial to the Flash, that's not really what I was looking for when I went into it. And the art from Porter is just brilliant. The first page in 70 is just, I was hooked from then. So I read 70 and 71 pretty quick. And I don't know if it'll be anything substantial, but it's worth reading. John, I got to go to you.
I'm trying so hard not to yell. I'm trying so hard not to be mad. Okay. Calling a story Flash Year 1 and then immediately jumping 35 years in the future completely defeats the purpose of having a Flash Year 1. The reason Batman Year 1 is interesting is because it takes place across the course of a year, and it gives you a feeling of actual real time passing. The same reason The Long Halloween is a good story. There are, 52. Same reason when you commit to something like Year 1 and then immediately jump 35 years in the future, that shows that you don't understand what Year 1, entails.
This is Year 1 Barry Allen, to be fair. This is the understanding of Barry Allen at Year 1.
Yeah. But, and to top it off, in 71, I got so mad when future Barry Allen is talking to young Barry and gives him just a ton of information about the future. Like 5 separate mind-blowing revelations. And then he asks one random question and he goes, I can't tell you that. This is the future. Pick a lane, Josh Williamson. Fuck. Oh. I do understand the concept of Flash going, how fast can I go, and accidentally time traveling. I'm sure that's happened before. The inclusion of the turtle, whatever you call the future Turtle City, I'm pushing for Turtopolis. Just feels so unnecessary and silly. Like, of course he traveled to a future where the Still Force has overtaken the world. But at the same time, the turtle's hungry for all speed. But people are still walking around normal. It doesn't seem like the worst possible existence. It's not friggin' Rock of Ages. It's not Future's End. It's not... He wants people to go kind of slow. And the Flash, he wants the Flash's speed most of all. Okay. And then we get back, and who does Flash run into? But the turtle. And now, because of all that future knowledge that future Barry dumped on him, he's got to say, would the world be a better place if I punched a hole in this guy's head right now? And that's going to be next issue. Guarantee you. I could run this guy out to the middle of the ocean and drop him, and that horrible future wouldn't happen. Whoops. I can make a tornado and suck him up in the stratosphere.
Turtle.
He's a sea turtle. Oh, that's good. Sea turtles aren't slow, though. It defeats the... Maybe he'd turn to the Sage Force and become a sea turtle, because sea turtles are magic. Okay. Matt, you talk about it.
So, I really have problems with this story. And unlike Cody, I don't even think the time travel element is earned. Like you guys were saying, this is Year 1. We're supposed to be seeing him take his first steps into his hero's journey. And instead, he sprints to the finish line and is traveling to the future. That's not earned. He hasn't earned that yet in his experience. He hasn't earned, and as a matter of fact, as an aside, in issue 70, there's a real quick, I think just a single panel where he references that he's vibrating through things, although he can't keep them from exploding yet, but it isn't earned. Like, you have to actually take these baby steps and show the hero taking these baby steps to get to these points. These are milestones. Barry Allen wasn't always able to vibrate through things and run through time, at least not without a cosmic treadmill. And, it does the character a disservice when Josh Williamson is more interested in foisting his own pet ideas, which, sidebar, he just ripped off from Jeff Johns and the Green Lantern mythos, rather than telling a good, down-to-earth story. I want to, sure, does he run into the turtle? Cool. Okay, fine. But why do we need all this nonsense with the future and the Sage Force? Just have him fight the damn turtle for the first time. Have him run into Heatwave or Captain Cold or any of the awesome Rogues Gallery characters that the Flash has accrued over the years. All of this running to the future stuff with dumb short sleeve costume old man Barry is utterly unnecessary. And it's only in there, again, so that Josh Williamson can, don't let readers forget, there's all these new wacky forces out there, and that's what we're really reading about. It's nonsense. And if it weren't for Howard Porter's art, my reviews on this book would be utterly crushing. But Howard Porter, MVP that he is, does pull out some of the best work I've seen from him actually in quite some time. I felt like he'd missed a little bit of a step on the Aquaman Drowned Earth issues that he drew. But yeah, this was fantastic. I mean, the man's just born to draw the Flash. I love the little details of the piles of burnt up runner's shoes in the background in issue 70. I think that's great.
Did he steal those shoes? I think he might have stolen those yellow shoes.
I think he may have robbed Nike.
Right? No, he stole it from the fire department. Wayne Tech donated those shoes.
Right.
And he said, Wayne Tech donated fireproof shoes to the Central City Fire Department. And they never said how he got them. So my assumption is Flash begun his career by stealing
you fucking
shoes.
Thief. Damn it, Barry.
Which does set up Tom King to make Wally a murderer who frames people in Heroes in Crisis. I'm sorry, Tom King. I'm sorry. He was raised by a criminal.
On 2 generations of the Flash. My bad.
Raised by a criminal.
I really shouldn't laugh, but that's a good observation. But yeah, Josh Williamson, please be done with Flash soon, okay? We move on. Do something else. You got your Batman and Superman title coming up in July. Do that. Not that you've earned it, but anyway, yeah. Flash Year 1, big swing and a miss for me.
I can't wait for the Dark Force versus the Strong Force to premiere.
Ooh, it's the showdown everyone's waiting for.
Yeah.
All right, Cody.
I don't know.
Go ahead, Nick. I'm sorry.
It was grounded and rooted in a way that this is a Flash who realizes that all of a sudden he can move like this and he can do these things. So the first thing he does is push it too far, and I don't think that's something that's uncommon for superheroes. I'm not sure how explored it is for the Flash, though. You said it isn't earned. I think go through that route of earning.
Man didn't discover his powers and immediately huck a mountain into orbit. Batman didn't get super rich and immediately buy a small country.
Or did he?
Maybe he did. Maybe he did.
Maybe
I don't think
Long Island.
I don't know. It seems like Barry Allen discovering those powers and immediately pushing them too far, I thought was a cool way to jump to it. And everybody brings this common knowledge in that Barry time travels and he'll mess up the the timeline. You know, I think everybody brings that into their experience with the character when they're reading it, so they immediately toy with that and what it can mean with a year one Flash.
So my counter to that is it probably wouldn't mess with me quite so much if it weren't explicitly done so that Josh Williamson could shoehorn the still force into it.
That makes sense. Because I haven't been following along with it as much, so it's not as ingrained into my reading and what I'm bringing to the table.
It's a lot of pent-up frustration for the last 20 or so
I feel like that around the table, and I think like even Tom King came into play during this conversation. I think there's a lot of pent-up anger around Flash as a character and what DC is doing.
Like,
you're not wrong there.
Don't get me wrong. I'm not opposed to the idea of these new forces. I'm not. But you've got a character that can stand on its own without them. Like, he doesn't need it to be a part of every story that feels like it's going nowhere. Like, we're getting repetitive arcs. Like, immediately after the epilogue to Flash War, we got the introduction arc for the Strength Force with the Trickster and the Sage Force with Heatwave. And they were the same story. They were exactly the same arc, back to back. And then we move into another arc that is just dealing with various characters that are experiencing all of the forces. And then we follow that with another arc that's somebody else inheriting a force and trying to figure out how to deal with it. Like, oh my God, it's been a year of the same damn story that hasn't gone anywhere. Nobody knows anything more. And now they're going to say, okay, from the jump, from year one, Barry knew about the forces. From the start, he encounters what the turtle can do with the still force, and then comes back in time and runs into the turtle, and presumably learns about the forces. Like,
So why was he surprised by the forces in New Justice?
It's just chasing its tail. Like, this is a year of chasing your own tail and never quite catching it, but when you do, what are you going to do with it? Like, nobody knows, and I don't think Williamson knows either. And I think that's where a lot of this pent-up frustration comes from, is seeing it happen. It's a slow-motion train wreck in a fast-motion comic.
Yeah, I never thought I'd be saying that a Flash comic needs to slow down, but this arc definitely needs to slow down.
Yeah. Oh, yes. So that's a lot of frustration for me. Now I can take a back seat. Let's talk War of the Realms, guys, because we're running a little bit long here, I think. Maybe. I don't know. I don't have a timer on. War of the Realms, of course, is our great sweeping blockbuster epic Marvel for the year. This is our summer event. You know, the summer event was born with Crisis and Secret Wars back in the day.
This is our spring event, actually, because our summer event's Maximum Carnage. No.
Absolute Carnage.
Absolute Carnage.
No longer enough to
Maximum Carnage was in 1992.
In your Carnage. Duh.
So this is a book. This is a series that is the culmination of Jason Aaron's run on Flash. This is everything that it's been building up to be, right? As far as I understand, he's been teasing War of the Realms for like 5 years.
Like, what year is it? Since 2000, since Thor God of Thunder, since Thor God of Thunder number 13. So yeah. 2013.
Yep.
Yeah, so a long run, long build. We're finally here. It's happening. And to its credit, I'm reading the core series, and the core series has been pretty good. But also, there are a billion tie-ins. Like 75% of Marvel productions at the moment are War of the Realms tie-ins. It's in Squirrel Girl. It's in Moon Girl. It's in Avengers and Venom and minis for days. Uncanny X-Men War of the
Well, it's not even as bad as it's not even that bad for a Marvel event though. Like Civil War 2 was 165 issues.
What was?
Civil War 2, 164 issues.
Yeah.
Civil War, 106.
Kinda,
Dark Reign is like an absurd number of issues.
Yeah, but Dark Reign is not an event. There's no central tie-in. There's no central mini for Dark Reign.
Yeah.
Dark Reign
House
was
of M's like 100
to spend. And I feel like this is kind of playing a little bit into that role. And some of them are really good, and some of them are really not good. I personally mostly enjoyed Giant Man, the first Giant Man tie-in. I could not have been more bored with the Uncanny X-Men tie-in.
It wasn't good. Yeah.
And I tried, actually, because JJ hated it so much, to read the Journey into Mystery tie-in to find something redeemable about it, and I got about 4 pages in, and I was like, nah, I'm out. No thank you.
Yeah.
Not for me. Not for anybody, as far as I can tell, but I mean, somebody must
I gotta say, even Squirrel Girl was better than that. At least Squirrel Girl took the time to, because there is, in fact, and as the Asgardian god of chaos is, in fact, a squirrel. So she teams up with the Asgardian god of chaos. That's not terrible.
So of these multitudes of tie-ins, so I guess maybe let's start with Matt. One that you've liked and one that you didn't.
Okay. Yeah, actually, so just to quickly touch on the X-Men one, I was kind of lukewarm on it. And I think that says a lot about Rosenberg as a writer, or at least how I receive his writing. I'm just really hot or cold on it. I'm sort of off-put from these ventures and in tie-ins in general, just because I see them for what they are, which is cash grabs, and that just colors my perspective right off the bat. I did, however, read. It's got such a long and convoluted title. The War Avengers, the one-shot with Deadpool and Captain Marvel and Captain Britain.
War of the Realms, Strike Force, the War Avengers, number 1.
Yes, the War Avengers. I actually dug that, even though I felt like, Deadpool was completely just had no place in that story and was clearly only put there because marketing and or CB Cebulski said he had to be. I thought it was a good, and actually I didn't realize it was just supposed to be a one-shot when I first started reading it. But it's a good...
Marvel likes to not advertise things or one-shots so that you think it's the start of a series.
That makes sense.
And you buy it, and then they go, oh, that's the only one.
Yeah. But it was really solidly written. The art was good. I thought it was a good, if kind of brief, meditation on what it means to be a soldier in wartime, when every battle isn't necessarily about winning, but about maybe just holding the line or, anything. And that's what Carol Danvers and company, Black Widow and Bucky, and hell, Weapon H got in on the fun. That's what they were doing, was tasked with holding the line against, and Malekith showed up. And
see, I had an issue with the Strike Force. I've had an issue with all the Strike Force books, actually, except for the first one, because they have all been coming out either much later than the events they portray in the main series. And so yesterday we got the Land of Giants one shot, which was great, by the way. Cody, you should read that one. It's Tom Taylor. But it's portraying stuff that happened in the main title 3 weeks ago.
It's been an issue with a lot of these tie-ins lately, actually. They kind of bounce around the story. You never know what to expect.
Well, that tends to happen when you have a million tie-ins coming out for your event comic. That's not an uncommon thing.
That's true. But War Avengers was actually one of the better ones so far.
Yeah,
How good was Deadpool in it, though? I mean, Dennis Hopeless.
Deadpool was Deadpool.
I thought he killed it with Deadpool, and with Scotty Young ending his now in a few issues. Maybe we could have a new Deadpool writer with this guy. I laughed a few times in it. It was cool.
Was that one Jerry Dugan?
No, I don't. It wasn't Dugan. I don't remember who it was. It was somebody I wasn't familiar with, though.
Lionel Francis Hugh? No, Dennis Hope Hallam.
That's right. It was Dennis Hopeless. I'm sorry. Yeah.
As I said
Not
earlier,
going by his nom de plume anymore.
Yeah, Hopeless.
Reissue of War of the Realms. I'm a little.
Yeah.
Little.
So that was one I liked. One I actually didn't like that I think everyone else here kind of did was the Giant Man one. First issue. I don't know. Just for whatever reason, this didn't really work for me. I think it's a great idea just to have all of these random tall characters getting together and fighting frost giants. But something about the execution, I think it was the jokey dialogue throughout, and it was all kind of interchangeable except for the new Black Goliath, who was just kind of a jerk through the whole thing.
He's just Goliath now.
Oh, is he? Well, you know what? I was just thinking
I'm fine with that, but
because that's an awesome comic.
I'm actually a little bit annoyed that they didn't address the fact that Atlas used to be Goliath.
Oh yeah,
because Atlas, when he was a supervillain, was Goliath. So
yeah,
you know, Tom. I did think it was interesting that he's Bill Foster's nephew. So. I was trying, I reviewed it, and I don't know why he would be such a jerk, but I'm like, in fairness, his uncle was electrocuted to death by a Thor robot with all these guys' buddies, so maybe he's a little sour on the concept of superhero-dom.
I kind of think that's what it is, although that's frankly not a character they've done much with since the original Civil War.
Well, he's been dead.
No, I mean the nephew. The current
it was weird because I don't know what his deal was when he said he was a manservant, and then he's like, that rolled off your tongue real quickly, you seem real comfortable with that concept, and I'm like, the fuck's this guy's problem?
Yeah, I don't know, I thought it should have been a T-ball conceptually, man, just big guys fighting big guys, and it just, I don't know, it didn't come together well for me, but that's just me. Nick, how about you?
Well, I agree. War Avengers was definitely one of my favorites so far. Deadpool, like I said, was just hilarious, and Captain Marvel's total badass, like she should be, and just through the whole issue, but they framed it in a way that they showed that can even be a fault, and I liked how they explored that, and the story was worthwhile to the main storyline going on. We get to see what happens with Venom on that really, really awesome cover that shows Venom before Malekith, and this one kind of goes into that. I thought it was fun, but the one I'm surprised nobody actually mentioned it, the New Agents of Atlas, is partial news. It just got broken off into its new mini-series. I think is really because of the success of New Agents of Atlas #1. It ended up selling out, and it's going back to a second print now.
Wow!
But it was super successful. It has the Marvel heroes from Asia, from China, the Philippines, and Korea, characters who had only come on the mobile game. Forgot which game it is, but it features Crescent and Io. They made that big deal about the Spirit Bear and the I believe it's the Korean girl who does it all. But it was really cool. They introduced all these new heroes, and it was cool. It's just
I want to
really
see more
badass. And this series brought all of them together and explored a whole new side of Marvel and introduced that. And normally with these tie-ins, I care more about what it can do for the main storyline. And this one surprised me by just introducing a good story on its own that I actually ended up caring about by the end. I was sad Miss Marvel got kicked out of it. She had to go back to the Champions, back with New York. But hopefully they bring her in maybe sometime. Amadeus Cho, I believe, as Braun took over.
Something worth noting is Greg. I wanted to mention, or since we're talking about Greg Pak, he has a Patreon right now. $2 a month, and he gives tips on writing comics. I subscribed, and it's actually pretty interesting. I know he so far he's made a few posts in there. He shared his proposal or his pitch for Mech Cadet U. so you could see what a successful comic pitch looked like. He had an interesting write-up about how to take bad reviews, which was interesting to read as a reviewer. um, just how to handle bad reviews, and honestly, I've written less than great reviews of his work before, and I didn't tag him or anything, but it's good to know that he has kind of a grown-up perspective on it. He's just kind of saying not everybody's going to like your work. Some people choose to engage, some people choose not to. That's your choice, but don't take it personally. Basically, it's what he's saying. And it's pretty cool. And for $2 a month, it's half the price of one comic. So it's pretty worth it for me. I consider it pretty worth it, I should say. Sorry to interrupt you, Nick.
No, and for speculators, also, New Agents of Atlas #1 is kind of a big one going on right now. That's one of those eBay books, But I think with the new series coming out that's spinning off of this popularity, it could be something to look out for. Some of these tie-ins do tend to feel like cash grabs, like Matt said, though. They either are worthwhile and they offer something that you walk away from and you're like, that was cool, that it was worth reading, or it feels like they just wasted your time. And I think War of the Realms, Spider-Man, The League of Realms, I think that was, I had no idea what that was. I think I was like, Cody, it was like 4 pages in. I didn't want to keep going. It felt worthless just going in, and I don't know what was going on with it. I understand they're trying to use Spider-Man and they're introducing all these different things, but I really didn't care about it. By the end of it, I was just ready to go to something else. But,
well, that issue was such a total letdown because the League of Realms was introduced a couple issues after that Thor God of Thunder I just mentioned, number 13. They're probably in like number 15 or so. I don't know the exact day or the exact issue, but they're years. They've been around for years, the League of Realms. They were the best thing about Aaron's Thor run, and that issue was just a colossal letdown.
It just had like no connection to it. It was just page after page of that's cool, and when does it end, basically. But I haven't been
in
as
itself invites a greater conversation about event fatigue, because that's something that's been talked about a lot in the last few years, as event comics have become more and more just an ongoing cycle. These countless tie-ins contribute to that in a huge, huge way. Cody is signaling us.
I believe.
Hey, I don't have
sorry. My phone is about to die. I didn't plan on recording on my phone, so I'm going to bid you guys a farewell. It's been a wonderful discussion, but I gotta go.
All right, Cody. We'll talk to you next week.
Okay, we'll see you in
5 minutes in the chat.
Thanks for joining.
Bye.
Bye.
Arby, we miss you.
Did you have anything else to say about Spider-Man and the Agents or the League of Realms, Nick?
No, I'm done with that. I'm ready to move on.
As for me, for War of the Realms, I'd say the tie-in I was most surprised by liking was the Punisher #1. Was actually really good. It was a really entertaining time. #2 just came out. It was a little less good, but I have some faith that it's gonna be. It's Jerry Dugan writing it, and I've been liking Jerry Dugan lately, so I have a feeling it's gonna turn around and be good. And I saw the cover to Punisher Kill Crew, and it looks like it's spinning out of this mini. So this mini seems like it might be one of the few tie-ins that might actually have some importance later. As for tie-ins I don't like, there's a lot of them. Journey into Mystery is a train wreck, and I've had to read every issue of it because I'm reviewing it. It is the worst. It is the worst. I hate it so much. I hate everything about it. Other than that, I did not like Spider-Man and the League of Realms either. As I said, it was a gigantic letdown after kind of years of build-up. That was by far the one shot I was most excited for, and I was not happy with it at all. The Strike Force books have been fairly good so far. But I don't. So far, the Strike Force books, all three of them, have been essentially like they'll send a crew out, and if you want to see their mission in depth, get the Strike Force book. If you just want to know what happened in the mission, like at broad strokes, you can get it in the main title. One strength in this event, I will say, is there's nothing that has happened that was not touched on in the main title. So if you wanted to just get the 6-issue War of the Realms main series, you wouldn't lose your cohesion of the event, which is a good thing. Like there are a fair amount of tie-ins, but none of them are mandatory. So that's something that like Civil War 2 failed spectacularly at, Secret Empire failed spectacularly at. It's a standalone event with a lot of tie-ins, basically. So I guess that wraps up our show, unless you have anything to say, Matt? Sorry.
No, that was it. That's it for our reviews this week, I guess. Any final thoughts on War of the Realms tie-ins, guys?
I don't think so.
No, I'm done.
Cool. Well, hey, let's move it. Sounds like a good segue into our last segment. What we've been reading and what we're looking forward to. Nick, how about you go first?
Well, what I've been reading isn't exactly current. I've been catching up on the DC Universe Doom Patrol, so I've been about that. So I went and caught up on Gerard Way's Doom Patrol 2016 run from the Young Animal imprint, and it's just I read it once when it first came out, and I haven't gone back to it since. And it's just the weirdest story ever, and I enjoy it. Like it just every issue gets weirder and weirder, and you think it can't top it. I think it works with Doom Patrol really well.
Have you
the
read
second
the
arc?
Grant Morrison run of Doom Patrol?
I'm sorry?
Have you read the Grant Morrison run of Doom Patrol?
Yes, definitely.
Okay, yeah, because it's extremely beholden to that run.
Yeah, it really does bring a lot of those characters in and everything.
I can't imagine reading that book without having read the Morrison stuff first.
Yeah, you have to come into it. It really just throws you right into it too, with Danny and everything. They think it's just the ambulance driver and stuff, and just coming into that fresh. But I think that's cool. Like that's great for Doom Patrol. You come into the weirdness, and that's what you're bringing into. And Gerard Way just understands it in a way that I think is reminiscent of Grant Morrison. I know Cody's not here to defend himself, but he thinks he's a bit ham-fisted in the Grant Morrison style of writing. I think he's a bit more original in it. I enjoy it, but
there's a little bit of truth to that. But I also
get where he's coming from. I enjoy what he does. I think it's really cool stuff. But that also is preparing for the second wave of titles, I guess, is what you can call it, from Young Animal, that they're bringing in. Doom Patrol's coming back, I believe, in a couple months.
Yeah,
and
Wave of the Worlds.
Yes, the new title that's coming along with it, Far Sector, introduces a new Green Lantern.
That one sounds really cool.
Yeah, that sounds incredibly interesting.
Absolutely, yeah. So I picked up all of those titles. I'm going to be reviewing them, and I'm catching up on all of the Young Animal stuff. And yeah, Doom Patrol is definitely the top of the list. But I'm going through. Cave Carson has a cybernetic eye.
I love that series.
I read the first volume of Cave Carson, and it is just amazing. It's
Wild Dog is the breakout of that.
Yes, I had no idea he was in it.
Wild Dog, between that series and his surprise turn on Arrow that season, whatever it was, Wild Dog had a little moment there.
He did. I
love that.
Great. Yeah, absolutely. And Mother Panic is cool. I'm getting into that one. I like the concept. The art I'm trying to wrap my head around still. I read an issue and then didn't go back. It was
let's see, the first 3 issues were John Paul Leon, and I loved those. And then all of a sudden it was like, oh, he's done. Here's somebody with a completely different style.
I hate when they do that.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's mainly been what I've been reading, especially the past week or so. I've been kind of binging all of that stuff. But this week I think Miles Morales Spider-Man 6 came out, and so pumped. And Naomi #5 came out, which is huge. She's a great character from Bendis. He's coming along with that one really great. And it's nice to see that there are titles out this week that don't have to do with War of the Realms too. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Matt, you want to take over?
Yeah, absolutely. So I've been deep diving into some pre-crisis DC, and been picking up Roy Thomas's All-Star Squadron, which is very old school flavor. It's not going to be for a lot of modern readers, but screw you guys.
DC Thor shows up in that run.
But it's set on Earth 2, and it's basically every character from the Golden Age except for the Justice Society, who, as of I think issue 4 or 5 of the series, are written out because they went to go serve in the regular army in World War II. So this is everyone else picking up the slack. Liberty Bell, Johnny Quick, Hawkman's running around doing his thing. I'm sorry, no, Hawkman joins a little later. Johnny Thunder and his ridiculous pink Thunderbolt. Just all these awesome, cool, forgotten characters. And yeah, it definitely has that old school Roy Thomas feel to it, but it suits the book perfectly because it's about these characters from way back in the day. And you can find back issues of this for like $2. It's not like a huge expense at all to get into. And the art is some of the earliest art from Jerry Ordway in the early running. But yeah, dude, it's just a hell of a fun series. What I'm looking forward to, and bear with me, is Batman Last Night on Earth is coming out next week. This is Snyder and Capullo's swan song for Batman. This is, in Snyder's words, per a recent interview, the third act and quote unquote death of end of the story of Batman for him. It's got a weird out there concept, which anyone that read Snyder's All-Star Batman run from the beginning of the Rebirth era knows he's not afraid to go to weird ass places with Batman. But yeah, it looks like it's going to be a hell of a lot of fun. It's on DC's Black Label. I don't think there's going to be any Bat Wang in this one. It's 3-issue miniseries, but
in that Black Label format too, apparently.
Yeah, it's that big, sexy, oversized Black Label format. It's going to be a really special book, I think. And then, of course, next week we also have Doomsday Clock, which Cody's not here to drool over.
And Heroes in Crisis number 9. I literally cannot wait to see what's coming next.
God, that's going to be either the longest or shortest review I've ever written for a book. We'll see. But JJ, what do you got?
For what I've been reading, I am currently reading Alack Sinner, which is a detective noir. Let me just read you the cover blurb. It's going to be easier than me explaining it. The second of 2 volumes that present for the first time in English the complete Alack Sinner comics by the Argentine-born team of artists Jose Munoz and writer Carlos Sampaio. Sinner is a hard-boiled private detective whose adventures are played out to a jazz soundtrack in a noir New York from 1975 through the 2000s. The stories are imbued with a deep political conscience and present a scathing critique of corruption in society juxtaposed with meditations on the nature of violence and exile. The Age of Disenchantment collects 7 stories that were originally published in Europe from 1988 through 2006. It is by Euro Comics. It's a nice big fat volume. This is volume 2.
Interesting.
The first one is The Age of Innocence.
Yeah, let us know what you think about that after you finish it.
Oh, it's really good. It's really good. Okay. The back cover is also pretty. August 11th, 2001, I thought, I'm strong, fairly healthy, I've gone back to work. I still have my friends and I have $40,000 left in the bank. Has there been a miracle? No. Times changed and this last one didn't catch me unprepared. I confess, I have certain joys, certain reasons for thinking about the pleasantness of the days and the pleasures of being with certain people. I'm a hero. I quit smoking. Although I have nicotine patches to help with that, those who know me know what I'm talking about. I'm rejuvenated, I've renewed my license, and I'm working as a detective again. It's a
Okay.
really interesting book. The art is pretty out there. I can see people maybe not being super into it, but it's really
Oh, that's
cool.
cool.
Yeah, it's awesome.
It's got. You say these guys are from Argentina?
They're from Argentina, and the book was published in Europe.
It's got a little bit of the Leandro Fernandez or Eduardo Rizzo look to it, which those guys are both from South America as well. So
yeah, it's really good though. It's really interesting.
Kind of a common continental style, it would appear.
Yeah.
I dig that.
As for books I'm looking forward to, Freedom Fighters this week I love it. Nick doesn't like Freedom Fighters. Don't.
I'm over Freedom Fighters. That's a discussion for another podcast, though. We can spend a whole podcast on that, and Cody and I can go round and round on that one.
Oh, that's going to be a good podcast. Later, though.
Later, though.
And like I said, I literally cannot wait to see how Heroes in Crisis ends. Not because I'm enjoying it, but it's like driving past roadkill. You gotta look. Was it a cat? Was it a dog? Squirrel? I don't know. But could be all three mushed together for all I know. And that is exactly what Heroes in Crisis is. But I think that's all I got to say about that.
I do want to interject. Walking Dead 192, I believe, is what number it is. Coming out in 2 weeks. This is coming after a huge issue in 191. I don't know if y'all are readers. I can talk about spoilers by now, I'm sure.
I'm a regular reader. You're not spoiling anything for me.
The last panel was huge for the series. Rick is shot. It seems like they're gonna finally take Carl as a leader now and follow him in the series, but it's hard to believe that they're gonna off Rick at issue 191 in this series. Such a strange series, but the next issue comes out in a couple of weeks, and that one's going to be huge.
Yeah, definitely. I don't buy that they're going to kill Rick Grimes in Random Ass issue 191.
I don't either. Not for a second.
But I say that to say this: they definitely telegraph something major happening when Carl and Rick are having that talk, and Carl's like, "Dad, how do you always know just exactly what to do?" And Rick gives him his "aw shucks," response, and it's this happy,
it's eerie
moment. Which anyone that reads Walking Dead knows that as soon as there's a happy moment, somebody's fucked.
And I think Kirkman knows that now, and he just fucks with us now with it. Like that's. He takes you through that issue. Like when someone acts
heroic in a Tom Taylor book.
Right.
I kind of saw something bad coming, but I had no idea that was coming at all. Yeah. I was shocked by it. I really was. So 192 is going to be... I'm just ready to see where it goes. Kirkman didn't even give us a note at the end of it. He just said, you got to wait till next issue. So he left us hanging on that one.
All right. Well, guys,
that takes us to the end of the podcast.
To the end of the show.
Follow us at comicdadwatch.com and all that stuff. That's enough about that. Bye.
You can hear us on SoundCloud and iTunes, and
if they're watching this, they know where they can hear us.
Oh, it's a true story. All right then. Bye.
Bye.